said, do you want us to move the camera? Jesus Christ.
I remember my first day. 33 years ago.
You get up.
Thanks, Julia.
It's primarily an issue for the walkout. The rope is pushing it. Thank you.
Thanks, Julia.
You guys know those mics are hot.
Why don't we turn them off?
hitting the tripod.
Is it true?
Yeah.
With the lens?
Yeah.
You're not going to pan?
I will, but not right now. Not until he's
Okay. Peter, which direction should I move my feet?
okay.
To my right?
To your right.
Is that better?
Yeah, again, it's in the shot.
Okay. Yep. Let me know. Trying to figure it out. How about down here?
Yeah, I mean, that's fine.
That's fine. Okay. Like that's okay.
Yeah.
see over there.
You have a remote.
Sam, look up.
Let's see over whose head.
That's it.
Okay, thank you very much. This is big stuff. We appreciate you being here. Late last night and early today, at my direction, the United States Armed Forces conducted an extraordinary military operation in the capital of Venezuela. Overwhelming American military power, air, land, and sea, was used to launch a spectacular assault. And it was an assault like people have not seen since World War II. It was a force against a heavily fortified military fortress in the heart of Caracas to bring outlaw dictator Nicolas Maduro to justice. All perfectly executed and done. No nation in the world could achieve what America achieved yesterday, or frankly, in just a short period of time. All Venezuelan military capacities were rendered powerless as the men and women of our military, working with U.S. law enforcement, successfully captured Maduro in the dead of night. It was dark. The lights of Caracas were largely turned off due to a certain expertise that we have. It was dark and it was deadly. But captured along with his wife, Celia Flores, both of whom now face American justice. Maduro and Flores have been indicted in the Southern District of New York for their campaign of deadly narco-terrorism against the United States and its citizens. I want to thank the men and women of our military who achieved such an extraordinary success overnight with breathtaking speed, power, precision, and competence. You rarely see anything like it. You've seen some raids in this country that didn't go so well. They were an embarrassment. If you look back to Afghanistan, or if you look back to the Jimmy Carter days, they were different days. We're a respected country again, maybe like never before. These highly trained warriors, operating in collaboration with U.S. law enforcement, caught them in a very ready position. They were waiting for us. They knew we had many ships out in the sea, just sort of waiting. They knew we were coming. So they were in what's called a ready position. But they were completely overwhelmed and very quickly incapacitated. If you would have seen what I saw last night, you would have been very impressed. I'm not sure that you'll ever get to see it, but it was an incredible thing to see. Not a single American service member was killed, and not a single piece of American equipment was lost. We had many helicopters, many planes, many people involved in that fight. But think of that, not one piece of military equipment was lost, not one service member was, more importantly, killed. The United States military is the strongest and most fearsome military on the planet by far. With capabilities and skills our enemies can scarcely begin to imagine. We have the best equipment anywhere in the world. There's no equipment like what we have. And you see that even if you just look at the boats. You know, we've knocked out 97% of the drugs coming in by sea. 90%. Each boat kills on average, 25,000 people. We knocked out 97%. And those drugs mostly come from a place called Venezuela. We're going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. So we don't want to be involved with having somebody else get in, and we have the same situation that we had for the last long period of years. So we are going to run the country until such time as we can do a safe, proper, and judicious transition. And it has to be judicious because that's what we're all about. We want peace, liberty, and justice for the great people of Venezuela, and that includes many from Venezuela that are now living in the United States and want to go back to their country. It's their homeland. We can't take a chance that somebody else takes over Venezuela that doesn't have the good of the Venezuelan people in mind. We've had decades of that. We're not going to let that happen. We're there now, and what people don't understand, but they understand as I say this, we're there now, but we're going to stay until such time as the proper transition can take place. So we're going to stay until such time as we're going to run it, essentially, until such time as a proper transition can take place. As everyone knows, the oil business in Venezuela has been a bust, a total bust, for a long period of time. They were pumping almost nothing by comparison to what they could have been pumping and what could have taken place. We're going to have our very large United States oil companies, the biggest anywhere in the world, go in, spend billions of dollars, fix the badly broken infrastructure, the oil infrastructure, and start making money for the country. And we are ready to stage a second and much larger attack if we need to do so. So we were prepared to do a second wave if we needed to do so. We actually assumed that a second wave would be necessary, but now it's probably not. The first wave, if you'd like to call it that, the first attack was so successful, we probably don't have to do a second, but we're prepared to do a second wave, a much bigger wave, actually. This was pinpoint, but we have a much bigger wave that probably won't have to do. This partnership of Venezuela with the United States of America, a country that everybody wants to be involved with because of what we were able to do and accomplish, will make the people of Venezuela rich, independent, and safe. And it will also make the many, many people from Venezuela that are living in the United States extremely happy. They suffered. They suffered. So much was taken from them. They're not going to suffer anymore. The illegitimate dictator Maduro was the kingpin of a vast criminal network responsible for trafficking colossal amounts of deadly and illicit drugs into the United States. As alleged in the indictment, he personally oversaw the vicious cartel known as Cartel de las Solas, which flooded our nation with lethal poison, responsible for the deaths of countless Americans, many, many Americans. Hundreds of thousands over the years of Americans died because of him. Maduro and his wife will soon face the full might of American justice and stand trial on American soil. Right now, they're on a ship that's heading to ultimately New York, and then a decision will be made, I assume, between New York and Miami or Florida. But we have people where the overwhelming evidence of their crimes will be presented in a court of law. And I've seen it. I've seen what we have. It's both horrible and breathtaking that something like this could have been allowed to take place. For many years after his term as president of Venezuela expired, Maduro remained in power and waged a ceaseless campaign of violence, terror, and subversion against the United States of America, threatening not only our people, but the stability of the entire region. And you all saw it. In addition to trafficking gigantic amounts of illegal drugs that inflicted untold suffering and human destruction all over the country, all over in particular the United States, Maduro sent savage and murderous gangs, including the bloodthirsty prison gang Tren de Aragua, to terrorize American communities nationwide. And he did indeed. They were in Colorado. They took over apartment complexes. They cut the fingers off people if they called police. They were brutal, but they're not so brutal now. And I just have to congratulate our military, Pete and everybody, and our National Guard. because the job that they've done, whether it's in Washington, D.C., where we have a totally safe city, where it was one of the most unsafe cities anywhere in the world, frankly, and now we have no crime in Washington, D.C. We haven't had a killing. We had the terrorist attack a few weeks ago. A little bit of a different kind of a threat, but we haven't had a killing in a long period of time, 6-7 months. We used to have on average two a week in Washington, our capital. We don't have that anymore. The restaurants are opening. Everyone's happy. They're walking their daughters. They're walking their children, their wives. They walk to restaurants. Restaurants are opening all over Washington, D.C. So I want to thank the National Guard. I want to thank our military. And I want to thank law enforcement. Been amazing. And they should do it with more cities. We're doing it, as you know, and doing it in Memphis, Tennessee right now. And crime is down. We've just sort of started a few weeks ago, but we'll go back. But we did a great job in various cities. But the place that we're very proud of is Washington, D.C., because it's our nation's capital. We took it from being a crime-ridden mess to being one of the safest cities in the country. But the gangs that they sent raped, tortured, and murdered American women and children. They were in all of the cities I mentioned, Tren de Aragua. And they were sent by Maduro to terrorize our people, and now Maduro will never again be able to threaten an American citizen or anybody from Venezuela. There will no longer be threats. For years I've highlighted the stories of those innocent Americans whose lives were so heartlessly robbed by this Venezuelan terrorist organization. Really one of the worst. One of the worst, they say the worst. Americans like 12-year-old Jocelyn Nungari from Houston. Beautiful Jocelyn Nungari, what happened to her? They, as you know, they kidnapped, assaulted, and murdered by Tren de Aragua animals. They murdered Jocelyn and left her dead under the bridge. There was a bridge that will never be the same to so many people after seeing what happened. As I've said many times, the Maduro regime emptied out their prisons, sent their worst and most violent monsters into the United States to steal American lives. And they came from mental institutions and insane asylums. They came from prisons and jails. The reason I say both, they sound similar. Actually, prisons, a little bit more hostile, a little bit tougher. A mental institution isn't as tough as an insane asylum, but we got them both. They sent from their mental institutions. They sent from their jails, prisons. They were drug dealers. They were drug kingpins. They sent everybody bad into the United States, but no longer. And we have now a border where nobody gets through. In addition, Venezuela unilaterally seized and stole American oil, American assets, and American platforms, costing us billions and billions of dollars. They did this a while ago, but we never had a president that did anything about it. They took all of our property. It was our property. We built it. And we never had a president that decided to do anything about it. In talent, drive, and skill. And the socialist regime stole it from us during those previous administrations, and they stole it through force. This constituted one of the largest thefts of American property in the history of our country. Considered the largest theft of property in the history of our country. Massive infrastructure was taken like we were babies, and we didn't do anything about it. I would have done something about it. America will never allow foreign powers to rob our people or drive us back into and out of our own hemisphere. That's what they did. Furthermore, under the now deposed dictator Maduro, Venezuela was increasingly hosting foreign adversaries in our region and acquiring menacing offensive weapons that could threaten U.S. interests and lives. And they used those weapons last night. Potentially in league with the cartels operating along our border. All of these actions were in gross violation of the core principles of American foreign policy, dating back more than 2 centuries. and not anymore. All the way back, it dated to the Monroe Doctrines. And the Monroe Doctrine is a big deal, but we've superseded it by a lot, by a real lot. They now call it the Monroe Document. I don't know. It's Monroe Doctrine. We sort of forgot about it. It was very important, but we forgot about it. We don't forget about it anymore. Under our new national security strategy, American dominance in the Western Hemisphere will never be questioned again. Won't happen. So just in concluding, for decades, other administrations have neglected or even contributed to these growing security threats in the Western Hemisphere. Under the Trump administration, we are reasserting American power in a very powerful way in our home region. And our home region is very different than it was just a short while ago. The future will be, and we did this in my first term. We had great dominance in my first term, and we have far greater dominance right now. Everyone's coming back to us. The future will be determined by the ability to protect commerce and territory and resources that are core to national security. These are core to our national security. Just like tariffs are, they've made our country rich, and they've made our national security stronger than ever before. But these are the iron laws that have always determined global power. And we're going to keep it that way. We will secure our borders. We will stop the terrorists. We will crash the cartels, and we will defend our citizens against all threats, foreign and domestic. Other presidents may have lacked the courage or whatever to defend America, but I will never allow terrorists and criminals to operate with impunity against the United States. This extremely successful operation should serve as warning to anyone who would threaten American sovereignty or endanger American lives. Very importantly, the embargo on all Venezuelan oil remains in full effect. The American Armada remains poised in position, and the United States retains all military options until United States demands have been fully met and fully satisfied. All political and military figures in Venezuela should understand what happened to Maduro can happen to them, and it will happen to them if they aren't just fair, even to their people. The dictator and terrorist, Maduro, is finally gone in Venezuela. People are free. They're free again. It's been a long time for them, but they're free. America is a safer nation this morning. It's a prouder nation this morning because it didn't allow this horrible person and this country that was doing very bad things to us. It didn't allow it to happen. And the Western Hemisphere is right now a much safer place to be. So I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank General Raisin Kane. He's a fantastic man. I've worked with a lot of generals. I worked with some I didn't like. I worked with some I didn't respect. I worked with some that just weren't good. But this guy is fantastic. I watched last night one of the most precise attacks on sovereignty. I mean, it was an attack for justice. And I'm very proud of him, and I'm very proud of our Secretary of War, Pete Hegseth, who I'm going to ask to say a few words. Thank you very much.
Mr. President, can you explain how the U.S. will run Venezuela?
Well, thank you, Mr. President. Finally, a commander-in-chief the world respects and the American people deserve. And as the President said, words can barely capture the bravery and the power and the precision of this historic operation. A massive joint military and law enforcement raid flawlessly executed by the greatest Americans our country has to offer. American warriors are second to none, the best in the world and the best of our country. What all of us witnessed last night was sheer guts and grit, gallantry and glory of the American warrior. I'm simply humbled by such men. And I tip my hat to our chairman, Dan Raisin Kane, and all those Americans who stood to watch last night. Our warriors are the elite of America, and again, President Trump has you're back. No other country on planet Earth, and it's not even close, could pull this kind of operation off. And no other president has ever shown this kind of leadership, courage, and resolve. The most powerful combination the world has ever seen. As the president said, our adversaries remain on notice. America can project our will anywhere, anytime. The coordination, the stealth, the lethality, the precision, the very long arm of American justice is all on full display in the middle of the night. Nicolas Maduro had his chance, just like Iran had their chance, until they didn't and until he didn't. He effed around and he found out. President Trump is deadly serious about stopping the flow of gangs and violence to our country. Deadly serious about stopping the flow of drugs and poison to our people. Deadly serious about getting back the oil that was stolen from us. And deadly serious about reestablishing American deterrence and dominance in the Western Hemisphere. This is about the safety, security, freedom, and prosperity of the American people. This is America first. This is peace through strength. And the United States War Department is proud to help deliver it. Welcome to 2026, and under President Trump, America is back. I'd like to welcome now our Chairman raises his hand to give a few more details about the operation. Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Secretary. Thank you, Mr. President, and good morning. Last night, on the order of the President of the United States, and in support of a request from the Department of Justice, as the President said, the United States military conducted an apprehension mission in Caracas, Venezuela, to bring to justice two indicted persons, Nicolas and Cecilia Maduro. This operation, known as Operation Absolute Resolve, was discreet, precise, and conducted during the darkest hours of January 2nd, and was the culmination of months of planning and rehearsal, an operation that, frankly, only the United States military could undertake. What I'd like to do this morning is talk to you through some of the preparation and the details without compromising any of our tactics, techniques, and procedures. There is always a chance that we'll be tasked to do this type of mission again. Our interagency work began months ago and built on decades of experience of integrating complex air, ground, space, and maritime operations. While the past 2 decades have honed the skills of our special operations forces, this particular mission required every component of our joint force, with soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and Guardians working in unison with our intelligence agency partners and law enforcement teammates in an unprecedented operation. We leveraged our unmatched intelligence capabilities and our years of experience in hunting terrorists, and we could not have done this mission without the incredible work by various intelligence agencies, including the CIA, NSA, and NGA. We watched, we waited, we prepared, we remained patient and professional. This mission was meticulously planned, drawing lessons from decades of missions over the last many years, many missions over these last many years. This was an audacious operation that only the United States could do. It required the utmost of precision and integration within our joint force. And the word integration does not explain the sheer complexity of such a mission. An extraction so precise it involved more than 150 aircraft launching across the Western Hemisphere in close coordination, all coming together in time and place to layer effects for a single purpose: to get an interdiction force into downtown Caracas while maintaining the element of tactical surprise. Failure of one component of this well-oiled machine would have endangered the entire mission, and failure is never an option for America's joint force. Those in the air over Caracas last night were willing to give their lives for those on the ground and in the helicopters. Let me talk a little bit about the preparation. After months of work by our intelligence teammates to find Maduro and understand how he moved, where he lived, where he traveled, what he ate, what he wore, what were his pets, in early December, our force was set pending a series of aligned events. Key was choosing the right day to minimize the potential for civilian harm and maximize the element of surprise and minimize the harm to the indicted personnel so, as the president said, they could be brought to justice. And as the president said earlier today, weather in Venezuela is always a factor this time of the year. And over the weeks through Christmas and New Year's, the men and women of the United States military sat ready, patiently waiting for the right triggers to be met and the president to order us into action. Last night, the weather broke just enough, clearing a path that only the most skilled aviators in the world could maneuver through. Ocean, mountain, low cloud ceilings. But when tasked with a mission, this organization does not quit. At 10:46 p.m. Eastern Time last night, the president ordered the United States military to move forward with this mission. He said to us, and we appreciate it, Mr. President, good luck and Godspeed. And those words were transmitted to the entire joint force. Over the course of the night, aircraft began launching from 20 different bases on land and sea across the Western Hemisphere. In total, more than 150 aircraft, bombers, fighters, intelligence, reconnaissance, surveillance, rotary wing were in the air last night. Thousands and thousands of hours of experience were airborne. Our youngest crew member was 20, and our oldest crew member was 49, and there's simply no match for American military might. As the night began, the helicopters took off with the extraction force, which included law enforcement officers, and began their flight into Venezuela at 100 feet above the water. As they approached Venezuelan shores, the United States began layering different effects provided by Spacecom, Cybercom, and other members of the interagency to create a pathway. Overhead, those forces were protected by aircraft from the United States Marines, the United States Navy, the United States Air Force, and the International Guard. The force included F-22s, F-35s, F-18s, EA-18s, E-2s, B-1 bombers, and other support aircraft, as well as numerous remotely piloted drones. As the force began to approach Caracas, the Joint Air Component began dismantling and disabling the air defense systems in Venezuela, employing weapons to ensure the safe passage of the helicopters into the target area. The goal of our air component was, and always will be to protect the helicopters and the ground force and get them to the target and get them home. As the force crossed the last point of high terrain where they'd been hiding in the clutter, we assessed that we had maintained totally the element of surprise. As the helicopter force ingressed towards the objective at low level, we arrived at Maduro's compound at 1:01 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, or 2:01 a.m. Caracas local time, and the apprehension force descended into Maduro's compound and moved with speed, precision, and discipline towards their objective and isolated the area to ensure the safety and security of the ground force while apprehending the indicted persons. On arrival into the target area, the helicopters came under fire, and they replied with that fire with overwhelming force and self-defense. One of our aircraft was hit, but remained flyable, and as the president said earlier today, all of our aircraft came home, and that aircraft remained flyable during the rest of the mission. As the operation unfolded at the compound, our air and ground intelligence teams provided real-time updates to the ground force, ensuring those forces could safely navigate the complex environment without unnecessary risk. The force remained protected by overhead tactical aviation. Maduro and his wife, both indicted, gave up and were taken into custody by the Department of Justice, assisted by our incredible U.S. military with professionalism and precision, with no loss of U.S. life. After securing the indicted persons, the force began to prep for departure. Helicopters were called in to exfiltrate the extraction force, while fighter aircraft and remotely piloted aircraft provided overhead coverage and suppressive fire. There were multiple self-defense engagements as the force began to withdraw out of Venezuela. The force successfully exfiltrated and returned to their afloat launch bases, and the force was over the water at 3:29 a.m. Eastern Standard Time with indicted persons on board. And both Maduro and his wife were embarked aboard the USS Iwo Jima. In closing, what we've witnessed today is a powerful demonstration of America's joint force. We think, we develop, we train, we rehearse, we debrief, we rehearse again and again, not to get it right, but to ensure that we cannot get it wrong. Our jobs are to integrate combat power so when the order comes, we can deliver overwhelming force at the time and the place of our choosing against any foe anywhere in the world. I am immensely proud today of our joint force and filled with gratitude to represent them here today. There is simply no mission too difficult for these incredible professionals and the families that stand by them and support them. As we stand here this morning, our forces remain in the region at a high state of readiness, prepared to project power, defend themselves, and our interests in the region. This operation is a testament to the dedication and unwavering commitment to justice and our resolve to hold accountable those who threaten peace and stability. In closing, I want to express my heartfelt gratitude to the brave men and women who executed this mission. Their courage and tireless commitment to our nation are what makes us strong. Thank you, Mr. Secretary, and thank you, Mr. President.
Well, I don't have much to add to what you've heard now, other than the following points. Nicolas Maduro was indicted in 2020 in the United States. He is not the legitimate president of Venezuela. That's not just us saying it. The first Trump administration, the Biden administration, the second Trump administration, none of those three recognized him. He's not recognized by the European Union and multiple countries around the world. He is a fugitive of American justice with a $50 million reward, which I guess we saved $50 million. And
We should make sure.
yeah, exactly. But
Don't let anybody claim it. Nobody deserves it but us.
But I want to be clear about one thing. Nicolas Maduro had multiple opportunities to avoid this. He was provided multiple very, very, very generous offers and chose instead to act like a wild man, chose instead to play around. And the result is what we saw tonight. The other message here is the following. You have a guy, like many people around the world, they like to play games. You have a guy who decides he's going to invite Iran into his country, is going to, do the confiscation of American oil companies, is going to flood our country with gang members, is going to take Americans prisoner and try to hold them for hostage and trade them like he was able to do with the Biden administration. Basically likes to play games all this time and thinks nothing's going to happen. And I hope what people now understand is that we have a president. The 47th president of the United States is not a game player. When he tells you that he's going to do something, when tells you he's going to address a problem, he means it. He actions it. I can tell you, I've watched this process now for 14, 15 years, been around it. Everybody talks. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. When I get there, we're going to do this. We're going to take. This is a president of action. Like, I don't understand yet how they haven't figured this out. And now, if you don't know, now you know. Because this is the way it's going to play out. And I think people need to understand that this is not a president that just talks and does letters and press conferences. And, if he says he's serious about something, he means it. And this is something that was a direct threat to the national interest of the United States. And the president addressed it. This is a president of peace, by the way. I told you what I just said earlier. This guy had multiple opportunities to find his way somewhere else and figure out another. He could have been living somewhere else right now, very happy. But instead, he wanted to play big boy. And so now, he's got other sets of problems on his hands. And but I think the message here should be for the world. Look, the president doesn't go out looking for people to pick fights with. He's not generally wants to get along with everybody. We'll talk.
Billions of dollars that'll be paid for by the oil companies directly. They will be reimbursed for what they're doing, but it's going to be paid. and we're going to get the oil flowing the way it should be. As you know, it was just a minor flow. It was actually a minor flow for what they have. But we're going to run it properly, and we're going to make sure the people of Venezuela are taken care of. We're going to make sure the people that were forced out of Venezuela by this thug are also taken care of.
Mr. President,
does the U.S. running the country mean that U.S. troops will be on the ground? How will that work?
Well, you know, they always say boots on the ground. Oh, so we're not afraid of boots on the ground if we have to have. We had boots on the ground last night at a very high level, actually. We're not afraid of it. We don't mind saying it. But we're going to make sure that that country is run properly. We're not doing this in vain. This is a very dangerous attack. This is an attack that could have gone very, very badly. Could have gone very badly. We could have lost a lot of people last night. We could have lost a lot of dignity. We could have lost a lot of equipment. The equipment is less important, but we could have lost a lot. And we're going to make sure that this is proper. We're there now. We're ready to go again if we have to. We're going to run the country right. It's going to be run very judiciously, very fairly. It's going to make a lot of money. We're going to give money to the people. We're going to reimburse people that were taken advantage of. We're going to take care of everybody. It's very important. We couldn't let them get away with it. You know, they stole our oil. We built that whole industry there, and they just took it over like we were nothing. And we had a president that decided not to do anything about it. So we did something about it. We're late, but we did something about it. Yeah, please.
Mr. President, can you explain the exact mechanism by which you're going to run the country? Are you going to designate a U.S. official to coordinate?
It's all being done right now. We're designating people. We're talking to people. We're designating various people, and we're going to let you know who those people are.
Mr. President.
What's the group you mentioned that would run Venezuela?
Well, it's largely going to be, for a period of time, the people that are standing right behind me. We're going to be running it. We're going to be bringing it back. It's a dead, you know, I talk about a dead country. A year and a half ago, we were a dead country. Now we're the hottest country anywhere in the world. We're a country doing better than any country anywhere in the world. And it required leadership. Venezuela has a lot of bad people in there, a lot of bad people that shouldn't be leading. We're not going to take a chance that one of those people take over for Maduro. So you can look at, and others, we have fantastic people, including people in there. So we're going to have a group of people running it until such time as it can be put back on track, make a lot of money for the people, and give people a great way of life, and also reimbursement for people in our country that were forced out of Venezuela.
Mr. President.
Would be.
You said earlier today that you weren't going to back Machado to come back and be the opposition leader in your Fox and Friends interview. And then you also mentioned the vice president of Venezuela. Are you going to work with the vice president of Venezuela, or how do you foresee the relationship
Well, I
going?
understand she was just sworn in, but she was, as you know, picked by Maduro. So Marco's working on that directly. He just had a conversation with her, and she's essentially not with
Did
me.
that weigh on your decision?
Well, that's when we had different presidents, but with me, that's not true. With me, we've had a perfect track record of winning. We win a lot, and we win. If you look at Soleimani, you look at al-Baghdadi, you look at the Midnight Hammer. Midnight Hammer was incredible. Right now, you wouldn't have peace in the Middle East. We have essentially peace in the Middle East because of that. If we weren't potentially a great country, you know.
Phone call with him on Monday. Did he talk at all about Maduro? Did y'all talk about this?
No, we didn't. We never spoke about Maduro.
Are you mad at him right now? I mean, there's this
I'm not
intelligence.
thrilled with Putin. I'm not thrilled with Putin. He's killing too many people.
There was that
I
intelligence.
thought that would be so. I settled 8.
No, we're back. I think we're back. Hold on a second. It says we're there. Yeah, we're here. Sorry about that. That was the software. We're back. I clicked to turn my microphone on, and it got exceptionally mad at Little Towel. All right, so as you just saw, President Trump delivering what is perhaps one of the most important speeches of his presidency. My name is Grant Smith Ellis. If you're just tuning in, you missed what was a hell of a moment. All right, so I'll join you on the screen for a second here. And then I got to go get my lunch, and then I'm going to be on with Ray from Dallas, ladies and gentlemen, at, oh, there's me. So then I'm going to be on with Ray from Dallas at about, what is it, 3 p.m. Eastern. Okay, so here's what just happened. If you're thinking to yourself, dear God, what does all this mean? It wasn't just that the U.S. went into Venezuela and captured Maduro. This was not like Osama bin Laden in the Abbottabad compound in Pakistan, like using a fake like vaccine program to infiltrate him and then arrest him. Without no, we didn't attack Pakistan. In fact, Pakistan was very mad we even used their airspace. But anyway, this was completely different, and folks have to understand this. And I don't even think the mainstream media is going to appropriately, maybe Fox will, but I don't think they're even going to explain this right, because they're going to be so shocked. No one is going to understand the geopolitical ramifications of what just went down, so allow me to lay it out for you. In the 1800s and the 1900s, the United States, under President Monroe, started a doctrine of territorial and economic and political conquest in the Latin American hemisphere. Why were we doing that? A number of reasons. One, because we were already expanding our empire. If you think about buying the Louisiana Purchase, Seward's purchase of Alaska, the Mexican-American War, which we've studied on this channel, it was kind of in line with the way in which we viewed Mexican expansion, or really Mexican territorial possessions in the southwest of the United States and in Texas. So as we were thinking about the Mexican territory, what we were also thinking about is other Latin American countries. Over time, this emerged into the Monroe Doctrine, which was the idea that American military might should be used to control the economic and social and political sphere of influence of the Western Hemisphere. It's an antiquated doctrine if you think that American territorial conquest is bad for moral reasons. That is stupid. I don't understand why people are anti-colonialist. I'm sorry, I get why colonialism is oppressive. You know what else is fucking oppressive? Every system of government in the entire world. It's a zero-sum equation. If communists, who are way more oppressive, read Kessler's Darkness at Noon if you don't believe me. If communists don't care about empires, and they just have communist empires, China, Russia, the BRICS, etc., and you as a capitalist country say, colonialism is bad. Okay, good for you. You just cost yourself your hegemony on the world scene, and now the communists are going to run the countries and the world, and they're going to be way worse than American imperialism. So if you believe in the Western way of life, if you believe in the system that this country has created, it cannot exist in a silo. It is not 1648. We are not siloed post-Westphalian nation states. We live in an interconnected global hegemonic community based on very realpolitik frameworks. Expand, preserve, demonstrate power. It's zero sum in that you either control or you do not control something. Therefore, what I think was happening in Venezuela is the Russians and the Chinese were starting to expand their Belt and Road project, which has to do with China pursuing mineral rights in Africa by investing in road networks. And the American government, with President Trump leading the helm, rightfully said they are going to take over Latin America. We have to do it first. And so this is a seminal moment in the history of the United States. I cannot understate this enough. It's a seminal moment in the history of the Trump presidency. It is the foundation. It's called the Trump Corollary, which is a new Monroe Doctrine, but it is the foundation of a completely new approach. We haven't seen this ever. We kind of saw it in Vietnam, but we were too late and it was ineffective. We kind of saw it in Korea, I suppose. But those were drawn out conflicts with proxies, and we tried to pretend like we weren't involved, and it led to these long drawn out fights where we didn't really win. This was shock and awe. This was, we have the world's biggest military. We're bigger than all of you. We're going to take this country, and now you can buy the oil from us. Bro, we've never done that. We have not done that in a long time. I don't think we've done that since prior to World War II. There are some examples like Cuba and whatnot in the Teddy Roosevelt presidency, of course. But even that was more like McKinley, desperately at the end of his presidency, trying to distract from the financial panics of the 1800s that precipitated the Panic of 1907 and the Federal Reserve in 1912. Not really relevant, other than that incentivized American entry into World War I, but I don't want to talk about that. However, I do want to talk a little bit about how this is so unprecedented, because it was not how America normally operates. We normally do regime change through soft power politics. you are really good at what you do, Allie. You are an excellent mod, and you are great at paying attention. So God bless you for being with us. But yes, so this represents an action that is basically in the past like 70 years unprecedented in the history of the United States, because we tend to use covert ops to facilitate soft power regime change, because the liberal establishment, which is called the Washington Consensus, became to believe that like just invading countries was bad morally because it reflected a form of imperialism that was shameful. But in a zero-sum political world, you either do that or you don't do that. And after 70 years of not doing that, we were risking the complete collapse of our influence on the world scene, and we were risking very dangerous communist countries banding together to fill the void. And so President Trump did something. I mean, I'm sure the military was like, hell yeah. But President Trump did something that it's going to change the dynamic of the world order. God knows how the UN's going to react, the Russia, China, etc. He basically took over a country in 6 hours, captured their leader, took the leader back to the U.S., is going to put him in ADX Supermax in Florence, and now we're going to run Venezuela. We conquered the country of Venezuela unapologetically. There was no one standing up there saying, yeah, you know, we wish we didn't have to do that. No, they said straight up, Venezuela in the I think it was like the 40s. I don't know the exact date of the Bolivia. So it was called the Bolivarian Revolution because the Venezuelan leader like was originally called like Bolivar or something, like way back in the day. It was 52. Yeah, it was the Bolivarian Revolution, which was a series of political demonstrations led by the revolutionary nationalist movement in Venezuela, which in alliance with the liberals and the communists sought to overthrow the ruling Bolivarian oligarchy and implement a new socio-economic model in Bolivia. So it started there, and then it spread to Venezuela. And it was based on that model. And that revolution occurred. Here we go. So the Bolivarian Revolution in Venezuela is a social revolution and ongoing political process that was started by Venezuelan President Hugo Chavez, the founder of the Fifth Republican Movement, and his successor, Maduro. The revolution is named after Simon Bolivar, 19th century Venezuelan revolutionary leader, prominent in Spanish-American wars of independence in achieving the independence of most northern South America from Spanish rule. And so let's figure out when this started. It started before Chavez, though. Wait, did they really not overthrow the Venezuelan nationalization of oil companies? I just need to know the history a little bit better. 1976. So Venezuela nationalized its oil industry in 76 after the overthrow of Western interests in Venezuela by the state by force, as President Trump told you. Now, I forget like the governmental structure. Like I know Hugo Chavez was the modern embodiment of it. I don't know the context of the nationalization of the oil in Venezuela. But the important part to understand is that Venezuela was kind of like Cuba. They were a communist country that we, the United States, could not overthrow their leader for a very long time. It built up, they were a democracy, but it built up to where they became way more communist, and then Chavez was very antagonistic towards the United States. What the United States did here, though, is that they conquered Venezuela. We as a country, through President Trump, didn't just go in there and capture Maduro. We conquered the country to reverse the 1976 nationalization of Venezuelan oil. Venezuela, my pleasure, Thomas G and 8G. Venezuelan oil companies before the nationalization were, yes, congratulations on your renewed towel membership, Christina. I gifted some of those earlier. We get 10 gifts a month. Venezuela's oil industry is very valuable. It is a mineral-rich territory that is, like, literally it's one of the biggest oil-producing countries in the world. It's a member of what's called OPEC, the oil-producing countries, and it's probably, like, I don't know how much oil they generate compared to, like, Saudi Arabia or the United States, but they have a substantial amount of oil. Now, oil, by the way, is located as deep as 30,000 feet. Oil is not a fossil fuel. That's just a misconstruction of its three core elements, which are not actually from fossils. It's just like this substance like water that exists in the earth very, very, very deep, okay? Oil is almost unlimited. It is almost unlimited, and Venezuela has a lot of it. And when they took American oil companies and nationalized them, we now just took not just one of them, not just like a fight in an election to maybe give up control of a few companies but pretend the Venezuelan people still own them. No, we took the entire country. President Trump said they didn't go in just to get Maduro. That was the first wave. If the government of Venezuela did not give the entire country to the United States, I'm talking about literally conquest, then President Trump was going to send a second wave and they were just going to obliterate the country. And so they just gave Venezuela to the United States. Do you understand what kind of message that sends? What are you going to do if you're Denmark now and President Trump's like, I want Greenland? Bro, we will bomb you, Denmark. Don't bomb us, President Trump. We're Denmark. Oh no, is it the broken baker from Denmark? Oh no. My point is, you see where this is going. Venezuela is just the start of this. If you start an empire, you have to have an empire. If you start taking over countries, you have to do it. Otherwise, people are going to attack you. This is I don't know where this is going, but the only basic option is the reestablishment of the American empire unapologetically. We took the entire country of Venezuela in 6 hours. No American soldiers died. No military aircraft were brought down. There was damage to one aircraft. We captured the leader that has been around as a successor to the Hugo Chavez movement for at least like 26 years. We took back the entire country's oil fields from the communists that have been nationalized since 1976. We did it in one night. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what exactly is going to happen here. You don't really have an option after this. If you do this, I mean, it's done. If you invade a country, you have to invade all the other countries that could pose a threat to you in this hemisphere. You have to take over all the countries by force or by accession by their government. We're in a new world right now. It's a new America. It's a new dynamic. I mean, we haven't had a leader with this kind of like understanding and also like wherewithal to just do this since like I don't even think Nixon would have done something like this. He used more of like a madman. He was an academic. As much as he hated the liberal intelligentsia, he was an academic, President Nixon. We haven't had someone like this. Even Eisenhower wasn't like really aggressive. You really got to go back to like Teddy Roosevelt, like remember the Maine, like charge up San Juan Hill to have any sort of corollary, no pun intended, because the new Monroe Doctrine is called the Trump corollary to this. We haven't seen this in 125 years. We had an empire, but it was like an economic empire with the threat of force. Even after World War II, the way that we established our hegemony in Europe was Marshall aid. We just made countries dependent on our post-war rebuilding aid, and then we controlled them. But it was always under the veneer of democracy. Now, if President Trump did this to like France, I'd be like, President Trump, I don't know if that was necessary. I realize Macron's a little bit of a douche, but you didn't have to do that. But Venezuela is the perfect country to do this in because they had a communist dictatorship that was doing horrible things to its political opponents, and they're communists. So I'm telling you, this was a message to the world, and it was completely successful. If this had failed, I mean, I think there was a 0% chance. There's always a chance, but I think less than 1%. If this has failed, it would have been a humiliation for the United States. We never would have come back from it. Instead, we conquered Venezuela, captured their president alive and his wife and extradited them, and then took over the oil fields in 6 hours. I don't know if folks understand how impressive that is. We weren't able to do that in Iraq in Gulf War I. We weren't able to do that with Iraq in Gulf War II. We weren't able to do that with Vietnam. We weren't able to do that with Cambodia. We weren't able to do that with Korea. We haven't done this in a very, I mean, I don't even know what to say. Do I go, like, I'm very thrilled that none of our troops died. I don't even know. Oh, goodness. Yeah, Christina, if you're, I think Aruba's kind of near that area, isn't it? I mean, I'm sure, I'm not a lawyer. This is not legal advice, but what they should do is go to the State Department's website and they should talk to their consular assistants, like the local consular office, whatever it is. It's probably like a station or like a, what is it? A diplomat compound. Call them wherever they are. And if it's a U.S. ally, I think Aruba's Dutch or something. If it's a U.S. ally, they will get you to the U.S. Embassy, and then they will facilitate your exfiltration. That's how it normally works if you're in a war zone, because like you can't. So they, all American citizens in that area should go to the State Department's website based on the country they're in, and they should follow the instructions of the State Department. Because the State Department's primary job through the U.S. embassies around the world and our allies is to coordinate their exfiltration. They're in a war zone, an active war zone, and they should follow the instructions of the State Department. And it's, I mean, I don't know, like the ground, like you can invade a country and take it over. That's not going to stop guerrillas from trying to fight your forces. That's why we have to have boots on the ground, as President Trump said. We took over the country of Venezuela. It's ours now. Yeah, so I think the Dutch embassy, my guess is that the U.S. embassy has a presence in Aruba because we're an ally of the Dutch. But yeah, even if we don't have an embassy, the Dutch embassy will have an American consular or council staff who will then get your family to the appropriate instructions. However they need to get out of there, just do what the State Department says. And if you can't find that, call the State Department or call the embassy, and that's their job. They have only two jobs. One, to help American businesses get contracts around the world, and two, to make sure American citizens who travel to countries that become war zones get home safely. Sometimes they bill you for it, but what are you going to do? Anyway, so going back to this, we own the country of Venezuela now. It is just ours. We have an empire again. It's a different kind of empire than the world has seen in the past 150 years. Yeah, that's why, Christina, whatever they do, I don't think they should just get on a plane. They should just do what the government says. But to reiterate, so it's just a new dynamic. It's an unapologetic form of empire. I mean, it's a ballsy move, though, because you cannot turn back. This is what's called the fail-safe moment. If you just conquer other countries and you don't keep doing it, or you don't defend it, if you don't unapologetically become an empire, you fail. I mean, this is the last sort of hurrah, and it's very fascinating because empires don't really do that. When we were very seriously heading towards a fissure domestically, that is the sign of decaying empire. I mean, we were basically done. I was really worried about the Republic. You heard me talking about it all the time because our domestic politics was so fragmented. We didn't have a national identity, and we were being divided and conquered internally, and it was just very bad. We didn't have a national American identity. Now we have an identity. All right, now we're an empire. So you're either with it or you're not, and there's no going back. You can oppose it on policy, but there's no going back once you have an empire, because it becomes a matter of national security and military tactics, and it becomes the new normal. And then it's very sort of nationalistic in that if this works, if we continue to successfully conquer countries that increases quality of life domestically for our polity, it's going to become the policy of the United States to conquer communist countries and take their resources. Okay. Why'd we have to hide it to begin with, bro? Our quality of life sucks because we became all politically correct, and we're oh no, the communists might think we don't like them if we fucking take over the countries that they're trying to take over to hurt us. Who gives a damn what the communists think? We are not communists. We do not care about what happens to China, in the sense that we want them to have purchasing power to facilitate this purchase of our oil and stuff. But we do not care about what happens to China. They don't get to set the reserve currency for trading in oil. If they do, we lose. It's a zero-sum game. We need a lot of oil. We need to sell it. We need to use our military. That's the best asset. We don't need to apologize for it. That's what was missing. We had a lot of rhetoric. Like, that's why I kept saying I really like President Trump. I could hear in his rhetoric that it wasn't just boasting. Like, he was willing to do this. And I was like, I'm just do it. Like, I was waiting. I knew he was going to do it. That's why I went live when he gave his speech over Christmas. I was like, he's going to do it. Because I sensed in the way he was moving that what he really cared about was countering the rise of Brazil, Russia, India, China, and Saudi Arabia. And he wanted to do it by military means, but he needed cover. So going after communism and narco traffickers and like taking nationalized oil fields, really good way to do it. A lot of the public's going to support that. It's done now. But what's weird is he didn't do it with an act of Congress. He must have had authorization under the post 9/11 state of emergency, which Congress shouldn't have delegated that much executive power. Too bad. So he didn't even need congressional approval. And why would he give congressional approval to a bunch of communist Democrats who are just going to run and tell their handlers in some country that's aligned with Venezuela that it's coming? That's how you lose. All right, my name's Grant Smith Ellis. We're in a new world. It's a new American century. 25 years later than George Bush, Rumsfeld, and Cheney thought it was going to happen. By the way, no coincidence that that specific cadre of people who tried to do this in the early 2000s came up in 76 in Ford's cabinet, Rumsfeld, Cheney, etc. This has been, like, the neocons couldn't pull it off. As much as people called them evil and tactical geniuses, no, they couldn't even pull this off. We failed in Iraq. We failed in Afghanistan. Afghanistan is the graveyard of empires for a while. It took down the Soviet Union with a little bit of our help. Watch Charlie Wilson's War. That's a really good movie about that. But the point is, we couldn't do it in Afghanistan. We couldn't do it in Iraq. You know where we did it? In Venezuela. Overnight, President Trump did what the Project for a New American Century and the neocons could never accomplish, and he did it in 6 hours. I mean, love him or hate him, it's done. What are you going to say about that? I told you not to underestimate this man. I have been in the same room with this man when Grampy met him. It's a very long time ago, like 2008. Bro, I knew he was capable of this. You just had to do it. And you can't do it in a way that will lead to, like, riots in the streets. Like, if he had done this in the wrong way, it would have pissed off the polity domestically. No one's going to be mad about this. Who's going to be mad that we own Venezuela? Nobody in the United States gives a damn about Venezuela. In fact, most people are probably going to be like, well, okay, we own Venezuela now. That's nice. You know, it feels nice to be American again. Damn right. Listen, if you've watched this stream at all, don't make me get Peep. I'm getting them. This is Peep Bunny Towel, all right? He is a giant stuffed peep. And if you have watched this stream over the past year, I have been railing somewhat sardonically against the communists. Pete Bunny Towel, do you agree? Yes, he rails against communists all the time. I wasn't doing it gratuitously. I was doing it because I was saying there is a persistent communist threat rising within the BRICS to counter American hegemony, and we're going to lose the empire and we're going to collapse. I was begging someone to do. I didn't think anyone was going to. First of all, I would have been happy if he just went in there, captured Maduro, and put the CIA to run like a new regime. I would have been totally happy. This man conquered Venezuela in like 6 hours. Yeah, what do you have to say about that, New York Times? I read their op-ed this morning because they were dumb enough to have their editorial board put an op-ed out before all this stuff was revealed. They were like, yeah, President Trump just invading Venezuela to capture Maduro. This is a flagrant violation of international sovereignty. Okay, well, now we own Venezuela. So what now, New York Times? No Vietnam, no Pentagon Papers coming for you. They're not even going to write a Pentagon paper. We took over Venezuela. New York Times is going to be like, give it back. No, New York Times. No. Bad New York Times. Pete Bunny Towel, should we give Venezuela back if the New York Times wants to? No, I don't think they're commies. He thinks that the New York Times are commies anyway. I'd put him over in timeout. I don't think we need to go that far. All right, listen, my name's Grant Smith Ellis. I'm going to be on with Ray from Dallas. Give that at 3 p.m. Eastern. I'm going to go eat first, though. Give that a shout out. Give that a watch if you haven't seen Ray from Dallas's channel before. He is a great guy, always has great things to say, always a very good interviewer, so I'll enjoy talking with him. I'm going to get a latte. My name's Grant Smith Ellis. Thanks for watching. We own Venezuela now. God bless America. I'm going to let you all go at the same time because I'm really hungry and I want a cheeseburger, but I just want to reiterate, we own Venezuela. God bless America. Apparently, there's a new American empire. It's called the Trump Corollary, which is a new version of the Monroe Doctrine, and I'm not upset about it. Pete Bunnytail was literally running around in circles. I woke him up to the news. He fell back asleep because he went into that state where he got so excited he just collapsed. Anyway, now he's running around in circles. He's having the day of his life. All right. Yes, Allie, the Cat Tracks, you are wonderful, and I will see you all at 3 p.m. on Ray's channel. And Christina, my thoughts are with your family. I very much hope they get home safe. Please let us know how that plays out, and enjoy all your new towel emojis. God bless America. It's a new day. It is a new day. The Empire has returned. See you later. My name's Grant Smith Ellis. Thanks for watching. Follow me anytime. YouTube.com/@Grant Smith Ellis. Twitter.com/Grant Smith Ellis. See you all later. Have a good lunch. God bless the United States of America and all our military men and women who overnight conquered the country of Venezuela in 6 hours and gave rise to a new domestic quality of life over the next few years that I don't think anyone thought possible. There you go, ladies and gentlemen. America the beautiful. All right, towel friends on the YouTube. I'll see you around 3 p.m. on Ray's channel. God bless.